Hello and welcome to today's presentation on focus and effectiveness, powering up your productivity with me, Laura Morrison. This is part of a week of events for Mums Mean Business with Business Crowd, and I'm going to share some tips that as a working mum of three, I find really useful both within my own business and with my clients. So let's check in. If you've joined this webinar, you possibly feel that you're always busy, yet not always getting the results in your business or your career that you deserve. And one of the things that I find is most common is when we delve into the question, are you truly focusing on the things that matter? Now, if you've joined today, you probably want to know how you boost your impact with whatever time you have within your working day. And as a working mum, that may be just 1 or 2 hours a day, it may be a full day, it may be slightly unusual hours. How you do it is down to you. But these are tips that you can use no matter how much time you have. So a little bit about me. My background is within technology. I used to run multi-million-pound accounts for household names, selling, managing technology solutions, working with growing businesses, and the use of technology to help those businesses to grow. So what can be achieved? Well, I can share with you that sometimes just spending 2 hours focusing on what the strengths are in a situation. I uncovered a situation in my career which saved £100,000 for a client. One day of focused communication for another client led to £25,000 worth of qualified leads. At the moment, 28 minutes from a first contact to securing a £4,000 client contract is something that is now something I can consistently repeat. And looking at a couple of days following a standardized process, that analysis enabled me to unlock significant value from contracts. £300,000 in that scenario. There's been countless scenarios that are similar that have enabled me to replicate that success. And earlier in my career, I managed to quadruple my salary within 2 years. The question I always get asked by people is, how did I do that? What is it that makes it different? How do I manage to do what I've done within the time that I've done it? I've achieved 3 degrees since beginning my, if you like, university education, which started quite late. I didn't take the traditional route. I came in as an apprentice. I was studying my degree in my early 20s for my first degree. I then went on to do a postgraduate in law and a postgraduate in coaching, both of which I did whilst holding down a full-time career, and with the postgraduate in coaching whilst I had 2 young children under the age of 2. So the first thing that I would say is find your zone. Understand what you are truly excellent at and what you love to spend your time doing. Understand in terms of impact what results are most important to you. Is that your wealth? Is it your health? Is it your relationships? Is it your growth? Is it your happiness? So once you get clear on results and what success looks like for you, it's much easier to then focus your time and go after what you want. So the next thing I would say is look at minimizing distractions. Now, all of these things can be really positive things managed in the right way. Not managed and allowing events and external situations to rule you, however, can lead to distraction. It can lead to you being pulled off of your course, pulled off of your focus, and not achieving the things that you want to achieve. So family and friends, absolutely wonderful to have around, completely supportive. But if you are a mum or a parent who is running a business and working quite often from a home office, you may find that you quite often have to make it very clear to family when your working times are and when you are available for other things. There is a need for flexibility. However, being really, really clear and setting really clear boundaries is really important. I just had a situation just this morning when I was preparing for today's calls, and I had a friend call me with a query. Now, it's a really, really good friend of mine. She needed a quick answer to a quick question, but the first thing was, do you have time to talk? And quite often when you're dealing with other business people in a similar situation to you, that opening question is really important. Do you have time to talk? Yes. Great, let's proceed with the conversation. If it's a no, let's just schedule a conversation at a time that works best for all parties. And I found even in the corporate world that that question was very, very effective because we had an awful lot of home workers. So just being clear, both in terms of managing your own boundaries and, if it's not a convenient time to talk, when somebody opens a conversation with you, if you answer the phone, just clearly and politely communicate to them, now's not the best time for you to give them the time that they're seeking. Can they go to your diary? And manage your time. Manage email, social media, and consuming information. Now, one of the things that I do successfully is have times throughout the day when they're designated times that I would check email, I will check social media and make any responses as appropriate. And if I'm not going to be available on either of those things, I make it clear to the people that I'm working with. Consuming information. Now, successful business people quite often do need to read, whether it's reports, whether it's business books, or anything else that's going to aid them in growing a business. And one of the things that works for me is to have a half an hour for reading in the morning. So before I check into email and things like that, that's when I find my brain takes in that information best. For other people, it might be of an evening when they've got the kids down for bed, but having a designated time so that during your day you don't get distracted reading articles. So one tip that I would do is I will bookmark or I will put my articles that I want to go back and read into a list where I can go and grab them when I've got that designated business reading time. The other things that can be real distractions, which we maybe don't see as distractions, can be things like poor health. It can be worrying about what may or may not happen. And, 9 times out of 10, the things that you worry about never actually materialize. So it really is wasted energy as well. And finances. So if you need to do anything to proactively organize your situation with respect, so with your health, it may be making sure that you're taking regular exercise and supplementation. That can be something that actually by taking proactive charge of it, you stop it being a niggling distraction for you. You enjoy better health, and that's something quite often that entrepreneurs in the early stages of their business, before they realize the energy it truly takes to run a successful business, often neglect that side. The other things that can be distractions, if you are working for other people, it can be your boss, it can be other things, it can be your colleagues. That's true whether you're within a business or running your own. And it can be your environment. Some people are highly sensitive to the environment that they work in. Some work best with music, some work best with silence. It's about understanding which environments create and stimulate the right things for you depending on the task that you're doing. So for me, if it's creative time, quite often I'll have music on. If it's something that's maybe is around finances, I quite like to be in absolute silence and not have anybody distracting me. So understand what works for you. The sooner you understand what works for you, the sooner you can communicate with the people around you and create those conditions for your success. So the other things to minimize distractions, decluttering is an absolute essential, particularly if you're working from a home office. You need to be setting aside time, whether it's a Friday evening or a Saturday morning, where you go through, where you file, where you remove anything that doesn't need to be there. So get your systems sorted out. Look at automating where you can, particularly with email and with social media, where it's relevant for you to do so and doesn't depersonalize the communication. Look at setting limits on things. So, you may, particularly if you're a successful business person, get lots of requests to do things that might be from writing blog posts to speaking, to it could be a whole host of things, presenting at schools. You've got to limit what you say yes to. So one of the things that I find incredibly helpful at the start of the year is to make a decision as to how much time within my business is for my business and for my clients, and how much of it is that time, if you like, that is giving to other people and their projects. It is something that it is important to do quite often within your business, building relationships. But understand how much you can be giving and set limits on that. And particularly as mums in business, we need to be quite rigorous with that, because there can be a tendency to find it very easy to say yes and a little bit more challenging to say no. So set your boundaries, banish overcommitment, because being overcommitted, it's not good for you, it's not good for your family. And make positive changes where you can. So it may be that you're looking at this and going, filing system, what's that? Well, okay, then maybe it's time to look at different ways that you could be filing things, that you could keep things organised. One of the things that I find is I just have a series of paper folders for stuff that comes in during the week. And if it's stuff that I'm going to look at later in the week, it's filed, whether that's by date order, whether it's by topic. Get yourself a system that works for you. So evaluate your time. That's my third tip. So to look at the tasks and which of the headings that they fall under. Is it rest? Is it relaxation? Is it household, environment, your routine tasks in your business, your productive tasks in your business, because the two can sometimes be quite different, and your creative and strategic thinking. Now, the reason I put rest and relaxation at the top is one of the common mistakes that I've seen, particularly with female solopreneurs, is rest and relaxation are not prioritized. And then I see, after 6 months or a year, these individuals are sharing that they're suffering with things like adrenal fatigue, which can completely wipe out your energy levels. So rest and relaxation, and also your health and fitness, are as important for your business as knowing how to do your accounts, knowing how to do your marketing, recruiting the right people. You have to take care of you. So my suggestion is actually what you do is you prioritize that, and that's the first thing that you put in your diary. And then around that, look at the other things that support you. We are all juggling as mums in business, busy households, busy environments, and then we've got the business to run in between. And think about when you evaluate your time, because you'll have, when you fill this in, I'd suggest printing 2 copies. You've got one, how it looks right now, and then secondly, how you'd like it to look. And consider where things sit best in terms of energy, where you bring the best value to what you're doing, what's actually realistic around your family commitments, what is ideal, and where your current performance level is at. So for me at the moment, I quite often find, because my husband's working pattern, Thursday and a Friday are better days for me to look at prioritising my family, but also doing my creative and strategic thinking, because I can do that at the same time that I'm dealing with my newborn, picking the kids up from school. It provides great opportunities for thinking time when you're alone doing that. I quite often put my client days and the things that I have to do regularly to keep the business going and earn a living. That's normally Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday when I'm out seeing clients. Some weeks are a little bit different, but if you have an idea of what your flow looks like, it's kind of a little bit of a paradox that planning then gives you the space to allow for spontaneity and flexibility if you have something that's a fairly regular schedule. So evaluating your time, I just want to show a couple of the differences. This comes from Mason Curry's book on daily rituals and how artists work. So Sigmund Freud, he mixed it up, he would do something which was, if you like, the well-being side, these orange boxes, the things that make him feel good, his breakfast, trimming his beard, interspersed through the day with his lunch and having a gap, his supper and his card games. And he'd intersperse that. So after each orange period, he'd then go normally into a green period of productive work. And you can see his hours, fairly regular, but he fitted in there. His exercise came in at lunchtime to go and do his walk around Vienna. So really interesting that he's fitting everything in there. Now, if we look at the next one, this is Maya Angelou, and you can see it's quite different. She's got a higher need for sleep. She's got one period where she works, which is a longer period than we saw on the previous slide. So rather than 3 short bursts, she preferred to get it all done in one set period, and actually found, as we were saying about environment, for her it was working in hotels and motel rooms that was effective. So, and then the remainder of the day was hers. That was her free time. That was relaxation, that was rereading and reflective time. And quite often we can overschedule our diaries so much that we miss the reflective time. The reflective time is something we all need, because that's where the insights to what we're doing comes in. That's where we can evaluate how successful the initiatives that we launch are or are not, and what needs to shift and change. So reflection is an incredibly powerful tool for learning and growth. So dealing with overwhelm, an exercise that I'd offer you, and something that works for me very, very effectively, is to just list everything you've got going on. If you find yourself that you're in one of those stuck phases, you're spinning the wheels, you don't know where to start, just list everything. Get it all on paper, or ideally get it on a spreadsheet. I love spreadsheets. I just find they're just the best way of organising things. My husband laughs at me a lot because of that. But for me, it works. And I look at which zone it's in. So is it the sales and marketing part of my business? Is it creating products? Is it something else? What the task actually is, by when I'm doing it, for whom I'm doing it, and the outcome. Now, with my background in finance and strategy, obviously outcomes, it's really useful to tie it to a fiscal goal. So to have an actual number in pounds, shilling and pence that this task is going to make for you, or is going to conversely cost you. What's the opportunity cost? Review these tasks for the urgency and importance. And then what you can do is you can mark as you go. Review the 3 most urgent things critical to your success daily. Now, I do this, and it's something that I started doing just before I had my first daughter. It was following a discussion that I'd had with a senior manager at the time on balancing my pregnancy, which was obviously limiting my energy at the time, with getting the things done that I needed to do in the business before going off on maternity leave. It was a very high pressure environment. So looking at the most urgent 3 things was really, really key. Now, what I do is I use a post-it note or something similar, very small, so no big to-do list, no A4 sheets, but just one post-it note which has the 3 things on, and make sure they get done in the day. Review and hide what you have done if you're using an Excel spreadsheet. So you're not losing it, but it's recorded. And actually then when you're having a day where things aren't going your way, if you can look back and see what you actually have achieved, that can work really, really well for motivating you and pushing you on. Diary the criticals in your calendar. You must, if you've got a report to write or you've got a blog post to write, put it in your calendar for a fixed time when you are going to carve time out of your day to achieve that task. Turn the phone off and get it done. Review your completions once a week. And the other thing that can be really helpful, particularly if you're running a business and you are a solopreneur, is getting an accountability buddy, somebody that you can go through and share this list with, that you'll do the same for, that you can go through and review things with, celebrate your successes, and challenge each other when you don't achieve what you've set out to achieve. So also understand what drains your energy. And define your core purpose in one sentence. Now, with my recent 21-day challenges, I got them to do this within 7 words or less. Your core purpose should be so clear that any task that comes in or any request that you're asked to fulfill, you should be able to say, does this align with my core purpose? Yes or no? You do the yeses, you say no to the no's. Exercise self-compassion and self-discipline. So be honest with yourself. And actually, you will have days where you're not firing on all cylinders. And it could be, as I mentioned, burnout, adrenal fatigue. It does happen. If we're not tuning in regularly and resetting when we start to feel these things going awry, that can cause longer term problems. So actually, when your energy is not right, sometimes you do have to exercise a bit of self-compassion and say, do you know what? Today I'm going to stop, or I'm going to take a couple of hours off, and I'm going to come back to my work with renewed focus, and I'm going to rearrange the diary. So, know when to do that, know when to deploy that. You run a business because you want to run and manage your life, your family, and your time. So know when to take ownership and know when to change things. And equally, self-discipline. If you've, gone from working in a 9 to 5 to then have this what feels like unlimited freedom stretched out ahead of you, it takes discipline to make sure you're achieving what you need to do. So, make sure you have a fixed time when you sit down and do your work. Have it in the diary. Know that on 9 o'clock on a Monday, you're going to do all of your sales and marketing calls, whatever it might be that works for you, but be disciplined. Realistically evaluate your working standards, and if you have got perfectionism or procrastination, which are, I think, the two silent things in businesses that are responsible for most things not going the way you want them to, if that's what you're finding in your business, go and get help to work with it. There are many, many coaches, mentors, trainers out there that specialize in these things and helping you to overcome perfectionism and procrastination. So, make sure that that's something that you are evaluating. And actually, if it's not up to scratch, go and get outside help. A mindset thing quite often needs an objective outsider to help you see where you need to make a shift. And the daily rule of 3 for your business, career, and your clients, and for you and your health. So the rule of 3, for me, that is making sure that every day you do something that is contributing to your business or career. I'm a little bit unusual, even on weekends. I kind of, if you're running a business, it's what you do. Um, you know, whether it's reading the business press, whether it's reading a book, whether it's self-development, these are things that help you in your business. Your clients, making sure that you're doing something that is supporting your clients, whether it's refining your product offerings, whether it's working with your client actually in their business. And for you and your health and your family, that's really important that you've got something every day that's in that. No matter how busy you are, you should always have the time, each day, to at least spend an hour of good quality downtime. And by that, I mean interacting with people, doing things, whether it's creative projects with your children, whether it's going for a walk, something that is supporting, your physical and your mental health and fostering those connections around you. So number 5 is doing what you must. So really think about your top 5 goals for success over the next 3 months and understand why each is important to you. You've got to really understand and get the emotional connection to your goals. Otherwise, they're hollow goals. If they don't have meaning, you're less likely to achieve. So make sure your goals have meaning for you. And then begin to break down and create a map of how you are going to achieve each one. Understand what will support you. And the things that will support you, quite often it's beyond just the business. It's beyond having the right team around you and the right tools. It's also about having, a supportive and harmonious family life. It's about having childcare facilities that you can call on. It's about having things organized in such a way. It's about good nourishment, good taking care of yourself. There's so many different aspects of your life. So whatever choices you're making, look at, is this helping me? Is it supporting me? Is it supporting my progress towards my goals? And visualize those steps to success. And then write down how you're planning to achieve success. When is the best time? How will you work? What will you need to do before you begin? And practically for me, I mean, I've just through March, as if March wasn't busy enough already with International Women's Day, decided to run my first 21-day challenge. And that was focusing on this topic, focus on effectiveness, personal branding, and networking. The commitment from that was that I needed to be going into a Facebook group and posting daily. I needed to send regular emails rounding up for the people who weren't doing it via the Facebook. I needed to be creating the content for people to view through the online course, and also needed to make myself present to answer any questions almost on a daily basis. So, that was about being clear in my communication and making it clear to the people that were undertaking that with me that these are the hours I'll be around to answer questions. This is when I will do it. And, for me, that meant really utilising that time after the children had gone to bed to do that, and doing my regular client work through early mornings and afternoons, and then focusing on this particular delivery in the evenings. Now, to do that, what I hadn't banked on actually was the fact that my children were going to contract the bit of the lurgy that was going around the school. So they both, as I was doing all of this, had a week off school, which was unexpected. And what I was able to do was to look at, okay, in my support network, how can I be supported through that? So that was through my husband. We scheduled for him to take a little bit of extra time off. My in-laws helped out, and we just kept things going. We looked at, as I was kind of in this environment, okay, where else could I go to work? So I wasn't in my working hours around the children running the risk of catching what they have. So, it's about, if you have the plan and you know where things are at, when the unexpected crops up, you're much more competent to deal with that. So the other thing is understanding what causes resistance. If you've got things that you must do and you're not doing them, what is the payoff? What's causing the resistance to you doing the things that you know you need to do? And quite often, and this is particularly common amongst females, it's waiting for the perfect time. We want things to be absolutely just so. Now, there is an art to timing, but if you wait for the absolutely perfect time, and that might mean the stars are aligned, and I don't know, quite often that's just an excuse for putting things off. So actually, what I would say is actually just get it done. Perfection can wait. It's more important to have things done. Working under pressure, that can be, some people go, oh, I work best under pressure. And I'd always challenge that, and I'd say, what, really? Really? Do you really, really enjoy it when you're right up against it with a deadline and there's a risk of failure? I would much rather that things were easy, successful. I like things to be planned ahead. It causes me immense internal anxiety. I can feel it physically if things are not, organised, or I'm waiting for somebody to come back to me when it's close to a deadline. I'm not a happy chickadee. I manage that by making sure that I build in buffer zones in that. The other thing that can cause resistance is this freedom illusion. So, you've left your corporate job, you're running your own business. Oh, I've got all of this freedom. Well, it's an illusion if the freedom is actually not giving you the freedom to create and produce your best work. So always ask yourself on a daily basis, is what I'm going to do today, is it helping me to produce my best work? Is it taking me closer to those 5 important goals? Are you subconsciously rebelling, particularly if you've done a 9 to 5 job 5 days a week for years and years and years? Are you actually, resisting doing what needs to be done by some sort of subconscious rebellion? And this is where, you don't need to share your answers to this with me or anybody else, but question it. And if you find that the answer is a possible yes, go and engage a coach, get some help with it. And, not feeling like it. What is there not to love about your own business? And if you're not feeling like it, then that might be lack of motivation. And that actually might be a signal that the business that you're creating is not the right business for you. again, at that point, go back and reevaluate. What is it that lights you up? What is it that doesn't light you up? Now, a few people that I've spoken to that have created their own businesses, what they found is actually they're on business number 2 or business number 3 now, because their first business, when they were trying to be something, actually, because they were trying to be something that wasn't congruent with them, they attracted the wrong clients or, the wrong business partners to work with. And what that meant is that they weren't fully enjoying what they were doing, they weren't fully engaged, and actually the second or third iteration of the business is much more successful because they become much more aligned with what works for them, who their ideal clients are. And once they've sorted that mindset piece out and understood that identity, that's when the right clients for them show up. So reflect on when you've completed something similar successfully. If you're struggling to make a start with a project, so it might be planning an event, it might be creating a report for a client or building a website. When have you completed something similar successfully? How did you feel and what worked? And you at your best, how would you approach the task? And if you're really struggling to get into a task, try and make your environment enjoyable. Mix it up a bit. Look at the music, look at the environment, look at the stationery you're using. It sounds so simple and so small, but it can make a difference. All of my planning I do with Sharpie pens and great big sheets of paper. That's what works for me because it engages my brain in a different, more creative way than actually doing that kind of blue skies thinking in a really linear and structured way. So understand what works for you. Make a start, and this is, just set a timer, a kitchen timer or a timer on your phone of 20 minutes. And even if it's just planning and outlining the task that, you're resisting making a start on, use that 20 minutes, whether it's to think about it, whether it's to look at the connections you need to make or the people you need to talk to get it going. Make a start. The other tip is going back to that list of the top 3 tasks, and the thing I bring in with that is a mindfulness spell. This was an absolute godsend when I returned to work after having my first daughter and again with my second. So I'd write my 3 tasks, and at 10 o'clock, because I typically start working at about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, at 10 o'clock the bell would go off and I'd check that post-it note, have I done the tasks that are on there? Probably 1 or 2 of them would be done, the third one might be outstanding. I'd set another bell for midday and check again. And if it hadn't been done, I'd go and do a reset over lunch, go for a walk, have something to eat, come back, and that would be the task that I would go back into. Because typically I used to begin my afternoon session at about 1 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, the bell would go again because the nature of what I was doing is I had incoming client calls all of the time, emails flying in here, there and everywhere. So actually, if something had pulled me off task, 3 o'clock was the perfect time to get back on task and achieve what I needed to for the day. And look at reward. At the beginning, if you're struggling with getting things done, make sure you give yourself little rewards, whether that's going for a swim at the end of the day, whether it's taking 5-10 minutes to sit and relax with a cup of tea and a magazine, whatever it is that works for you, some sort of small reward that's built in when you've done what needs to be done. And actually what you'll find is as you exercise that muscle, the getting things done muscle, it becomes an intrinsic reward. It's self-generated from completing. You will find that actually you want to just get stuff done for the joy of getting stuff done. So, the summary, the important points for me that contribute to kind of personal excellence when you're being focused and when you're being effective is actually number 1 is rest. It's getting adequate rest and building in adequate time with your family. And even going back to the early days of my career when I was studying, so if I tell you I was working probably about 50 hours a week, I was doing probably 20 hours of actual taught time in the course and then the travelling in between. plus the study offline. But, I used to make a rule with myself that, from a Saturday afternoon through to a Monday morning, I wouldn't work. Saturday morning, I'd work. I'd go into the office, and that's when I'd do all the research for my studying and my writing to get my degree. So a Saturday morning, I'd quite often be up at 6 a.m. But come midday, I'd down tools and I'd go and have some fun. You need to build in these non-negotiable rest periods when you are off duty. It's imperative to your well-being. Energy. So making sure that you're fueling your body with the right foods, the right exercise, the right creative stimulus to just keep you excited, engaged, in a good place. Review and reflection, because that's where we get to see where things are working for us and where they're not working for us. Compassion and discipline. Compassion is something that's not often talked about in the business world, but compassion and discipline are two things that for me go hand in hand. It's about being able to take an objective look at what's going on and looking at where we need to be kinder to ourselves and others, but also where we need to hold ourselves and others accountable and to standards. It's about having clear goals. So being so clear that what you are doing can be so easily expressed to yourself and to other people, and so you can easily and quickly say yes or no to anything that comes your way. Your organisation, so having your systems sorted, having your automation in place, making sure you've got everything sorted in terms of how you need to handle things. And certainly as your business grows, what you need to have in place is, yes, it sounds a bit corporate, but a standard operating procedure. You need to know how you handle things, when you handle them, when core tasks are done for your business each month, and who does them. And then finally, it's about your environment. So creating the environment that you want to work in, whether that's working hours, whether it's your working space, but making sure the environment is right and set for your success. So I'd like to thank you for joining us this afternoon. We've got lots more interviews and events. So if you go to www.GameChangerForWomen/Mums Mean Business, or one word, 2016, you'll be able to register for the other events. And do feel free to share it with others. There will be a recording of this made available. And I'd like to invite you to join me for the Game Changer for Women 90-day program, which I'll send details out for later today. That will be launching next week for April 2016. So that's a 90-day program where we'll go through and look at, with a group of other women who've already signed up, core things that can really help you raise your performance, whether you're in a 9-to-5 job, whether you're running your own business. This is things that have come from my research and my coaching with hundreds of women over the last few years, and the common things that they found challenging. So it's very much based on the feedback that I've had and my own experiences both in corporate life and running a successful business. And the 21-day program begins again in June. So we've just had 200 women go through that, which has been phenomenal. It's been women from all kinds of countries, some running social enterprises, some women who are in corporates and looking to just create a career shift. So it's been highly enjoyable, a big learning curve, and hopefully the program that we run in June will be even better. So if you want to get in touch, email info@thegamechangerconsultancy.com. And if you'd actually like to book a consultation with me, very, very easy. You can find my diary at www.calendly.com/gamechanger. There's a range of slots available. If you see something that works for you, book in and we'll make contact. Thank you very much for your time today.